Hey guys, this is Mannequin, and today I wanted to talk about a couple of new features introduced in Logic 10.1. Please excuse the difference in my voice. It's partially because it's late at night, so I gotta talk a little quieter than I usually do. So without further ado, let's get into this. The first thing I want to cover is the drummer, because I noticed right off the bat when I saw the update that they said they added an Electro House drummer. And so for the first time I decided, what the heck, let me check out the drummer and see, what it's like and what it does. So I just created a new project, and this is what it popped up with here. So I selected drummer, and then I'm going to have electronic here. I'm going to create this. I actually already looked at this before, so I'll kind of give you my opinion as I'm running through what the whole drummer deal is. So with drummer right off the bat, if you look, you could tell that it is a virtual instrument, but it's very different from Ultrabeat. And the reason being that Ultrabeat has a lot of stuff that you could tweak, and this seems to be more like it fits the pattern of the what are they called here? The tools, the easy, what are they called? Easy smart controls. There we go. That's what I was looking for. It's very similar to the smart controls and layouts of that. So you got, for these mixes, you got these basic knobs and stuff like that. And if you go to these various sounds like a snare drum, you got a variety of simple tools that aren't as complex as Ultrabeat. So right off the bat, that's kind of what you see with drum machine. The other thing is you have down at the bottom here this window that's got the pad right here that you could change whether you want it complex, simple, loud, or soft. And I'm going to show you right now why I wasn't particularly fond of drummer when I started checking it out here. And the reason is because of this. This is their big room preset. So let me show you this. Okay, nothing all that surprising about it. When it gets to the end, it does a fill though. And then it switches. So this setting is kind of okay, but I'll tell you right now, when I started moving this around, I really started to dislike it. The reason being that pause there, the fact that that's very uncommon to big room. It doesn't make sense as to why they'd have that. I imagine what they should do instead is for a simpler pattern, they should have cut out like every other hat or something instead of having that on that one on there just cut out. So that was kind of weird. And then if you turn it up to complex, it just gets unreal for Electro House unless you're doing a build. So I didn't find that very beneficial by the way of working with it. You could have these different presets too that kind of change the general tone, but honestly I don't find that too amazing. Now one of the things that is very good about the way this is you could actually go into this and split it up. So normally you'd have all this master process stuff that you wouldn't want to deal with, and because you've got so many drums that you're running through it, and it just creates a real mess. But what you can do is you got the snare, and you could right click it and hit create track, and that actually brings up two things here. This is the is labeled as the kick. I don't know why, but this is actually the Ultrabeat plugin that the drummer is controlling. So you could now tell everything that is actually going on here. And now if I go to the snare, you could also see that the snare has been split off and it has its own processing. So you can use this more effectively by splitting it, but sticking it under one main channel, I think is, it just really, you wouldn't end up with a good mix, because that's like, it's very limiting to what you could do with the drums. And drums are very important, specifically the kick drum and a couple other things, but mainly the kick drum. So the fact that those are all processed together, I don't think is a good thing at all. It's good if you just want to throw a beat together. Like if you're, if you're basically just you want to run something up for someone, they got a vocal track. They're like, can you throw some music in this style behind you? You're like, okay, so you pull up a drummer here, and then you set it to the style they want. Make sure that sounds similar to the actual style they want, not just by name, but actually by sound, and then it'd make things quicker there. But otherwise, I don't like drummer because for kicks, it doesn't work if you use if you used a note sampler unless your kick has already been 100% mixed and processed, and then you're just keying it in every quarter note. It would hardly make sense as to why you would key it in by MIDI anyway, or by drummer. So honestly, I don't find drummer all that great of a feature. The other thing that was updated in 10.1 was the compressor, and it's a lot bigger than the previous compressor, and in my opinion, a lot less intuitive also. So the one thing they did change that is easier to notice is the different compression types. And if you didn't play around with these in previous versions of Logic, you probably will, because they're right there and they're obvious and they're easy for you to just, what the heck, what does this one sound like? So that makes it a lot easier to see those and notice that they're available for your usage. But otherwise, they did add a couple new ones. But other than that, it's nothing all that amazing here. Just a couple different compression types. So you got the meter and graph. Now, if you ask me, everyone's going to be preferring the graph over the meter, because it actually makes a lot more sense. The meter was kind of like the old one, except for now it's a needle, which in my opinion makes it a little harder to read. Is when you have it in the digital format where it's like one of these, it makes it more easier to just look at and see, because that's what a lot of your other volume meters are at. So considering the amount of compression, if you're used to seeing this because you use analog equipment, then whoop-de-doo, you'll enjoy this. But otherwise, I personally don't think that's amazing of a thing. It looks nice because it looks like other plugins, but it also causes this plugin to take up a lot of room. If you use a Retina display, that's a good thing. If you don't, and you're like me, then having two compressors up is a pain in the butt. So now, as before, there's pretty much the same tools here. You got the auto gain; it's in a different spot now, and then you have the auto release, which is in a different spot. You have these knobs: makeup gain, ratio, threshold, knee, attack, release, and they're less intuitive unless you go on a graph here. So the threshold, you could tell this is set to auto gain. So let me turn that off really quick. But let me set the makeup gain higher so you could see threshold changes that. And just pulls it down. Ratio is how much it is sloped, and then you have the knee, which is whether it's sharp or whether it's smooth. So it's much easier to see this working out, in my opinion, because I don't know, it looks nicer right here. And additionally, you have this right here that shows you in a time graph how much you're compressing. That is a very good tool. I am very glad they added that. So they did make things a little bit harder by way of the knobs are not as intuitive by their placement, because now it's just knobs lined up. Previously, it was designed in a sense to where you could things were lined up in the manner that they kind of worked, so it made a lot more sense. One of the things that they did pull up is some of the settings that were initially you'd have to click a little arrow to bring the window down and show more options, but they've brought them here so you could kind of see that now. And the particularly distortion, because I've actually used the compressor for distortion, and it's done some good things. So I didn't really like having to flip that window down, so it's nice to have that there. So there are some changes here, and if you don't like the big size, there is one thing you can do about it. If you grab in the corner here, you can resize it. However, keep in mind, everything looks very blurry when you do that. So typically, if you have enough screen space, just set it to 100% because it looks nice. If you need the screen space like I do, you'll probably just want to pull it down to a smaller size, because you'll generally know with the size of everything, you know where everything is, and you don't have to worry about missing a knob or a button because it's too small now. They just kind of made the interface way too big because they like Retina screens. So you might like that, you might not like that, depending on your screen size and whatever and whatnot. But this does look like a third-party plugin, which is another thing that I don't, I think there's pros and cons about it, because it kind of makes it, if you got a third party, you usually reach for a third party plugin that looks like this, then you might be more inclined to reach for this. But if you're like me and you like the way that Logic's compressor was laid out because it was different from third party plugins, then it kind of, it makes you lean a little bit more towards, let me use a third party plugin because it looks the same and it probably has better sound. So that's a new compressor. And there was one other thing I believe that I wanted to touch on here. So let me add a software. Ooh, actually two things, and I'll show you that just as I start doing this here. So one of the things that they added with the piano roll was, I actually haven't tried this yet. I just heard about it, so I didn't get a chance to try this because I've been pretty busy. But let's see here. So it's called, if I could see, here we go, Brush Tool. And it allows you to theoretically key in notes faster. And the reason being, this doesn't work like FL Studio. Okay, so when you click a note, it drops, when you click anywhere, it drops a note in. If you click that same note, it deletes it, and you could grab and resize like usual. Now, how it differentiates from the pencil tool is that the pencil tool, you have to double click to delete a note instead of just single click, so it's a little faster. And the one thing I like more about the pencil tool, though, is if you click and drag, you can create a longer note. Now, one of the reasons I would prefer using the new brush tool is if, let's say, okay, so I like that, and I want to just like have a whole bar of these. So instead of clicking once each time, now I can just go bloop. So that didn't work as exactly as I wanted. But let me see here. Let's see if I can get this to. Nope. Okay. So I haven't figured this out entirely because I haven't really got to use it yet. But I believe if I set this to 1/8, it might do what I want it to do. Here we go. So now, okay, there was like 6 notes there. Wow. So now I can just go like that, and then I automatically have. So that makes it a lot easier to key in bass lines that you have repeating like that. So that is something good there. Now, the one other thing that I really, really like about this new update is that you could change where things are in your plugin menu. And I've already done this, and I didn't even realize that before you couldn't do it, and now you could do it because they just implemented it so smoothly. It was almost like, oh, you didn't have that, and I just didn't bother looking for it or something like that. So anyway, I put Synth Master, which is one of the ones I usually throw down. It's down in my AU instruments. Here we go, Synth Master. So it's down there, and I have to go through a couple menus to get there. But now it's like right here. So whenever I want it, it's so much easier to access it. So and how you do that is, if I could do this without messing up, preferences and plugin manager, and now you have you're at the top level by default, I believe, when you get in. No, here we go, show all, and then top level. So if you go to top level and then you grab one of your audio units here, so actually let me just go, I already added this one, but what all I would have to do is grab this and drag it into top level, and that throws in the top level. I imagine that's probably what you'd want to do more than anything else, because if you go through and you make too many folders, it's probably just be a pain to deal with, because something like this, you just want to whip out what you need. So it may be removing some of these from this list if that's possible. I haven't tried that yet, but yeah, adding stuff to this list makes it so much easier. It's like if you have a synthesizer you always use, you could just throw it on this list, and it's a lot easier to use, and you don't have to bother going down here, and then here, and then you finally get it. So I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover in this video. Logic 10.1 has some pretty good new stuff that they added. You know, some of the stuff you could tell by the way I was talking about it. I wasn't too fond of it. But that's partially because of my own mixing preference. If you saw something here that I didn't like and you liked it, then feel free to share in the comments why you prefer it, because other people that might be on the fence and they might lean more towards why you like it. So remember, it is preference, and it can change. It could change person to person, so you don't have to worry too much about, you know, me being right or wrong, because it's entirely subjective. So that said, I'm going to talk about why, if you decide to use this, why you should actually separate your kick when you're mixing in your kick, and you should have it as an actual audio sample. That'll be in my video here. I'm going to talk about making a really good kick, except for it's probably going to be titled slightly differently and a lot more appealing sounding. But the process is essentially impossible if you have a sampler playing back a kick sample. So that would be one reason why you want to separate the kick. Additionally, sidechaining a kick through Ultra Beats, one of the sends, then you're taking the kick audio and then you're sending it through a sidechain. That'd be harder to deal with than just having a kick sample and then sending it to a sidechain. So it'd just be more hoops you'd have to jump through. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, feel free to like, comment, share, and everything like that. And subscribe, because I got more videos coming up. And that kick tutorial that I'm going to do here is going to be a very great thing, and you're going to love that. Shout out to Scott Taylor. He was the one that suggested this video, and he also gave me a couple tidbits of information as to why he liked the new drummer and some of the new things that they implemented and stuff like that. So kind of helped me not have to go around and search too much by way of details, and just kind of relay some of this information and give my opinions on some of this stuff. So that's the new update. I'm sure there's a couple more things that they added. I believe they added another sample pack of sorts, something like that. But other than that, these were the main ones that stood out for me. The compressor being the biggest one. That's the biggest change. It's totally going to change the efficiency of the way I work in Logic. Whether good or bad, I don't know yet, because I haven't used the compressor too much because I've been doing a lot of school. But I really do like this graph over here that shows the amount of compression over time. That is amazing, and I'm glad that they added that. So other than that, we'll see how the features that they moved around in the new skins, how that works out. But I'll be honest, I'm not going to use Drummer ever. It may be more beneficial for other people, but it's just one of the things that I'm really into is mixing my drums by using samples and doing each track individually, and then layering them up on top of each other and doing all kinds of weird things that would be way too hard to deal with for Drummer. The creativity is good for other styles, but EDM is very basically set in what gets, like, when you're keying in samples and stuff like that. But there are some examples like techno and deep house and stuff like that, where you could get more funky with the drums and you don't have to worry too much about being on the beat and being heavy and being very rigid and not too flowing and dynamic. So the drummers are more suited for that changing sort of style, where you get variety and you get this sort of dynamic live feeling. So if that's your music style and that's what type of electronic music you're doing, then these could be suited to that, and you just have to try them yourself to figure out if you like them. But for things like trance and main room electro house and dubstep, you're probably not going to want to use these, because you get too involved with keying the drums in other ways than you could just leave to one of these drummers. So sorry guys, so you don't make the cut this time, but maybe in the future you will, if you I don't know, maybe do a completely rethinking of this so it's more advanced and less simplified. But that's probably my biggest pet peeve about some of the things they've been doing. It's less advanced and more simplified, but that's just my opinion. So anyway, like I said, I already did the wrap up for this video, and I ended up going over and talking more about it. But anyway, thank you for watching, and feel free to comment, subscribe, like, and all that, and give me your opinions, stuff like that, so we can keep the discussion going and everyone can learn more from that. See ya.